There's one exercise that I really like to do for my hip flexion, whereas you're doing gazelle movements in aerial or for your climbs, is to really strengthen your hip flexors, but also be able to extend the hips in the position. So if you do a beautiful gazelle, you are obviously going to have one knee bent and one knee extended. For that, you're going to struggle if your hip flexor are not strong enough, because not only they're going to not be able to pull adequately, they're also not going to be able to push away and extend. So a very simple exercise is to use a foam roller. I really like this exercise because not only we feel the stretch and it's delicious, but you can also work onto your lovely hip extension. So we're going to lie down and place the foam roller under the hip bones here. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to close that pubic bone into almost like a glute bridge. Close that pubic bone and that triangle between the pubic bone and the hip bone. Yeah. So if you watch some of my other videos, I always talk about this little pubic triangle, pelvic triangle, and then closing a bit that rib cage as well to align. Now, you're going to feel your glutes are working quite hard, and you're going to feel that hip extending a little bit more. You got the option to like simply straighten the legs as well, but don't let that pelvis just relax, yeah? We're still pulling on that pelvic floor. We're still lifting that pubic bone, and we're still extending the legs away and squeezing the glutes, yeah? So you can see my core is quite active here as well. Yeah, so this is kind of like the beginning of what you should be feeling in your gazelle or your climbs. Now, the other option as well is to do what we call in Pilates a single leg stretch, where I'm going to squeeze one of my knee into my chest. You can see as well I'm pulling my pelvis all the way up. And then you're going to slowly try and lower that leg down and away. Now, what's important for you is to not let that pelvis move forward again, but you want to try and work on a bit more core compression exercise. You're going to try and extend that leg away. So I'm intentionally squeezing my thigh and my toes and my calf and my glute the same way you just did while you pulled that pubic bone. And then your challenge now is to let go of your hand and make sure that the pelvis is still holding everything in place. So I'm squeezing my knee into the chest and I'm pulling my leg away from me. And you're going to try and hold it this way. So you have the option to just hold the stretch here. You also have the option to then release a little bit of pelvis. But now you're going to have to work a bit harder. So don't just relax the leg, still squeeze. And now try and pull that knee a little bit more into your chest. You're going to feel that hip flexor really squeezing here. And then try again to let it go and hold. Yeah, so you can both hold it in a posterior tilt and in what we call an anterior tilt. Yeah, so when we really squeeze, here that's my posterior tilt, my anterior tilt, I have to work extra hard. This also applies if you want to train your active splits as well, yeah? So working on the hamstring at the same time, you can work, but that will be in another video. Okay, so working that single leg stretch, you got the option to do it as a standalone sort of stretch exercise, holding it and letting it go, working into different pelvic positioning, holding and letting go. Or you can also work into your more dynamic movements, which are like a single leg stretch. You exhale when you bring the movement in here. Yeah, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Yeah, so you can do it as a standalone dynamic exercise, or you can do it as part of your mobility and recovery and stretches. So I hope that helped, and let me know. You don't forget to subscribe, follow, like, share to anyone who might also need this in their aerial practice, so that we can all have beautiful gazelles and beautiful climbs in aerial.